StrayAllDay.com.
Now tuned in to the show where you earn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, especially yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And we put all this together into one framework, one philosophy. We have codified our entire process, our entire system. You are listening to the Daily Masterclass. We got a book on this subject. We got a university. We got a lot going on. All of this is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, we're going into volume 4 of my counterintuitive beliefs. I think we're going to get to volume 5. Maybe we'll stop there. Maybe we'll keep going. Maybe I'll just make every episode of the show, I'm giving you some counterintuitive beliefs. But I want to go on the record with some core counterintuitive beliefs that I have. If you haven't listened to the other episodes where I shared my counterintuitive ideas, or not even ideas, these are actually beliefs that I have. Those are episodes 1721 was volume 3, 1720 was volume 2, and volume 1 was way back, episode 936. So my counterintuitive beliefs, where I'm telling you things that most people believe it one way, but I believe it the exact opposite way or a completely different way, or I just have a completely unique way of looking at things. And that's one of the main reasons why I have this show. But again, I want to go on the record with a few core ones that I want to make sure everybody knows I believe, and I will explain why I have those beliefs as we get into these points. So let's get right into it without further ado. Counterintuitive Beliefs, Volume 4. Number 1, if a person cannot argue both sides of a point, of an opinion, do not listen to that individual. I'm giving it a moment for that to sink into your brain. And I'm giving a moment for some of you right now who may be experiencing a little bit of cognitive dissonance, because maybe I'm talking about you. If you have an opinion on any subject, I don't care what the subject is, I don't care how strong your opinion is, I don't care what life situations you have been through that have led to the opinion. I'm not saying that those situations are not valid. I'm not saying that they didn't happen. I'm not saying that you're lying. I'm not saying that you should change your opinion, right? Listen to what I'm saying. Whatever your opinion is on any subject, if you cannot argue the other opinion, the opposite opinion, the exact counter argument to your opinion, then your opinion is not valid. Your opinion should not be listened to, because here's the reason why. Because you have not considered the validity of anyone else's point aside from your own. And if you can't understand why another person can have an opinion different from yours, and the only way you can understand it is if you could also argue it. And if you could argue it, that means you understand it. If you can't do that, then you are not a person that I wouldn't get into a discussion with you about a subject on which we disagree, because you are incapable of seeing how my opinion could be different from yours. You couldn't see how someone else could have an opinion different from your opinion. Then why would I want to get in a conversation with that individual? I want to get in a conversation with someone. I see, when I talk to people, I don't need you to agree with me. If you listen to this show right now, if you listen to enough episodes of this show, I 100% guarantee I have said something, at least one thing that you did not agree with. But that's all right. I don't need you to agree with everything that I said, because if I needed everyone who listens to this show to agree with everything that I said, we wouldn't have over 3 million listeners of this show. No way, because I would have offended everybody and nobody would be listening to me. But all the time when I talk to people who listen to this show, they will say things. I hear this all the time from people. They say, Dre, I don't agree with everything that you said. All right, there's some things that you say that I don't see it that way. I don't hold the same opinion as you, or I didn't think of it the way that you thought of it. But the way that you articulate it, the way that you explain it, I understand why you're saying it that way. And it's not even so much that I'm trying to sway you and change your mind. I'm just offering you a different way of looking at it and how I see it. Now, if we disagree, I actually welcome that. I welcome being around people who don't have the same opinion as me. I don't need you to have all different opinions than me. We got to agree on some things. But I mean, you gotta like, Rita's water ice and soft pretzels and cheesesteaks. I'm from Philly. But other than that, we could disagree on a whole lot of other things. It's cool for us to disagree, because now I know that you have a different set of perspectives. You have a different set of experiences. You have a different way of looking at the world. I want people around me who look at the world differently from me, because if everybody around me looks at the world the same way that I look at the world, well, what the hell do I need you for? All right, you just a carbon copy of me, and I'm better. So what I need you for? I want somebody who has some different ideas than what I have. Okay, so what we call this is the steel man argument. Many of you may be familiar with the concept of the straw man argument. This is the steel man argument. The straw man argument is when someone takes something that you said and is not actually what you said, but they try to make it sound They take what you said and they try to make it sound ridiculous, and then they argue against that. So, for example, if I say something like, I'm vegan. Now, this is outside of the thing that I'm saying, just to give you some backstory. I'm vegan like 6 days a week, and I eat meat like 1 day a week. So if I say something like, hey, I used to be vegan, but I'm not vegan anymore because I just got tired of eating vegetables all the time. And I got tired of eating soy and tofu, and I just want to eat some hamburgers. If I say that to somebody and then someone says, oh, so that means you just hate all animals and you want animals to die and you don't care about the environment because being vegan is better for the environment than eating meat. That's a straw man argument because it's not actually what I said. I said I stopped being vegan because I got tired of eating vegetables all the time. I didn't say I hated animals. I didn't say I want the environment to be destroyed. But a straw man argument is someone takes what you said, they make it sound something different from what you said, then they argue the thing that you didn't even say. All right, if you want to see a good example of straw man arguments, just get on a site like Twitter and just scroll through it all day, and you'll find plenty of them all day. You'll be an expert in straw man arguments. A steel man argument is the exact opposite. It's when someone else has an opinion, and you take their opinion, and you actually flesh it out, and you argue it better than they argued it. That's what we call a steel man argument. And this is one of the points that I gave you when I did a few episodes on disagreement. When you disagree with another person, episode number 1529, how to talk with people with whom you disagree. One of the things you need to do is the steel man argument. So if someone has the exact opposite opinion of you, if I'm the person who says, I like eating paleo because eating meat is good for your health, and you say, I like eating vegan because killing animals under any circumstances is wrong and is bad for the environment, and you live longer when you eat vegan. And I'm the person who hates eating vegan. I'm going to make a stronger case for veganism than you will, even though I don't even agree with it. Why? Because that's the steel man argument. And why would I want to do a steel man argument? What's the point? Am I just trying to prove how smart I am? No. The reason that you do a steel man argument, anybody should be able to do this, is because you are showing people who disagree with you that you understand where they're coming from. So if we were to take something else, let's say LeBron versus Michael Jordan, who's better? Now, everybody knows that the actual answer is Michael Jordan. All right, it's the only logical, smart answer. But if I'm arguing with somebody or having a conversation with someone, it's not an argument yet, but having a conversation with someone who thinks LeBron is better than Michael Jordan, ridiculously, I'm going to build the case for why they think what they think. I'm saying, you know what? I understand why you think LeBron's better than Michael Jordan because of this, and I'm going to list all the reasons why they think what they think, and I'm going to argue for LeBron better than they could argue for LeBron. And then, you know what that proves? That proves to them that I'm listening. That proves to them that I understand where they're coming from. It proves to them that I'm not just some bag of air just throwing all my opinions at them and not listening to anything that they say. Because what's the number one thing you hear from people whenever, I don't know how often you get in arguments, anyone here, when you get in a back and forth with someone, neither of you has succeeded at changing the other person's mind, 90% of the time, usually somebody throws out the following: you're not listening. You're not listening to me. You can't hear anything. You just want to be stuck in your ways. You're not taking in anything other than you just want to believe what you want to believe. All right? How often do we hear people say that when they get in back and forth and neither person succeeds at changing the other person's mind? Understand, you will never succeed at changing another person's mind. I already told you in episode number, what episode is that? Let me find it. I already told you, I got to tell you, I'll find the episode in a moment. Episode 1669, here it is. You are not in the business of changing people's minds. 1669. All right, the point of getting in a back and forth with someone, even when you disagree with them, is not because you are going to change their mind. And you might say, well, why even talk to somebody if you have a different opinion? But because you can learn something. That's why you get in a conversation with that individual, even if it becomes an argument, even if neither of you change the other person's mind, that wasn't going to happen anyway. You get in that conversation because you might learn something. And if you're willing to steel man another person's argument, in other words, understand their position even better than they do, you will learn something along the way. Good lawyers are really good at steel man arguments. Now, I'm not in the law profession, but if we have any lawyers listening to this, or any of you knows a lawyer, ask them if I'm correct on this. When a lawyer is going to court and they need to argue a case, one of the main things that they need to do is figure out what are all the strong points that the other side has. If I'm a prosecutor, I need to know everything the defense might try to do so that I'm ready for it when they use it. If I'm a defense attorney, I need to know everything the prosecution is going to try to do so when they do it, I'm ready for it. It's like if I'm a basketball player, I want to know everything that the other team's going to try to do, so when they do it, I'm ready and I can stop it. If I'm a football team, I'm planning for what the other football team is doing, so when we get in the game, I already know what plays they're going to run, and when they do it, we're ready to stop it. That is steel man argument, even if it's not argument. It's preparing for what your opponent could possibly do, so you're ready for it, and you're prepared, and you're one step ahead of them before they even do it. Anyone who is wise in their thoughts and wise in their perspective, wise in their thinking, they are able to see both sides of a conversation, even if they strongly disagree with the side. If you have people who are pro-life and pro-choice, that's a topic that people get super, super heated about. Unlike LeBron and Michael Jordan, people can laugh about it. Veganism and eating meat, which people can, some people don't laugh about that. People can laugh about that too. But pro-life, pro-choice, people get into fistfights over conversations like that. If you're strongly on either side of that conversation, can you make a solid argument for the other side of it? If you can't, I would suggest that you learn how to. Why? Because it will allow you to understand why those people think what they think. Again, not so you change your mind, just so that if you do get in a conversation with that type of individual, you will not become emotionally unhinged simply because you can't understand why another person has an opinion that's so different from your opinion. If you can't understand why another person has an opinion different from yours, that's a problem in itself. All right, every human being is unique. We all have different sets of opinion. We're all entitled to them. So respect other people's opinions by understanding where they're coming from and not just labeling them as an idiot simply because they have an opinion that you couldn't possibly hold. But you should be able to hold all opinions. Doesn't mean you have to. You should be able to. Point number 2. We are going into my Counterintuitive Beliefs, Volume 4. Number 2, the biggest liar in your life. I'm going to tell you who it is. There's one person in your life who lies all the time, lies to you all the time, and maybe you're aware of it, maybe you're not. If you haven't figured it out in the 10 seconds I've been talking about this, the answer is your ass. You are the biggest liar in your life. Yes, you. I'm calling you a liar. You're the biggest liar in your life. How do I know you're the biggest liar in your life? Because as human beings, we have this skill that animals do not have. Now, humans technically are animals, but I mean animals who can't talk, right? And excluding parrots. Well, us humans have this ability to rationalize. You know what rationalizing means? Without giving you a dictionary definition, rationalizing is when we take a situation and we, instead of looking at the situation objectively as it is, what we do is we craft a story in our heads that allows us to feel okay about that situation. So usually when we're rationalizing situations, it's a situation that is less than ideal. Because we don't have to rationalize something that's great. If everything's going great in our lives, we don't have to make up a story. We can just say, hey, look, it's objective and clear. Things are going great. But any area of our lives that things are not going great, and nobody who's listening to this right now is everything going great in your life. We all have at least one area of challenge in our lives. We rationalize to ourselves all the time just so we can sleep at night, so we can do something other than worry and focus on whatever that area of challenge or that problem area is. We lie to ourselves about certain things in life just so we can feel better about our situation instead of doing what we need to do to address that situation, or maybe because we don't at the moment have the resources, maybe time, attention, maybe money, maybe extra sets of hands to address that situation at that time because we got other things that we need to do. Like you might have a problem with your significant other at home, but it's 7:30 and you need to leave and go to work because you got to do what you got to do to pay those bills. Or you might have a problem at work, but you need to go and pick up your kid from school because you got to go pick up your kid or you're going to charge you $25 late fee and you can't afford to keep paying that $25. So sometimes in life we rationalize because it's expedient. It allows us to do what we need to do and handle other situations that are at hand at that time. So I'm not saying that you're a bad person because you lie to yourself all the time. And every human being is guilty of this. I'm just pointing it out. All right, this is a counterintuitive belief. Most people don't want to face this truth, but it is the truth. And if I'm lying, you let me know. If I'm wrong about this, you can tell me. All right, anybody here who doesn't rationalize and lie to themselves, you let me know that you're always honest with yourself 100% of the time. I don't think so. We lie and rationalize just to make it through the days a lot of times. And here's the reason why I'm pointing this out to you. The more real you can be with yourself, the more freedom you create for yourself. And when I say real, what I mean is pointing out your own bullshit. Not having somebody else call you on your bullshit. And that helps too. If you can get with somebody, a coach or a mentor or somebody who can help you recognize your own bullshit. I think I play a role in that for people who listen to the show often enough. That person pointing out your bullshit, as long as you accept it, you look at it and say, you know what, they're right. Then Dre is pointing out some bullshit that I'll be doing. And then you can accept it and start telling yourself that you're bullshitting. That will help you. That will make you more free. So the more you're willing to point out your rationalizations and the lies you tell yourself and your own bullshit that you sell yourself, the more free you will be because you will open your mind up to say, you know what? No, that's not okay. Let me stop telling myself that story. Let me stop lying to myself and making myself feel okay about the situation. And let me make myself uncomfortable enough that I do something about it. Wouldn't that help your life in a lot of ways? Now think about something in your life, one thing in your life right now that you've been bullshitting and lying to yourself about over and over and over again. And you know if you really kept it real with yourself, you would probably do something about it, but you haven't been keeping it real with yourself, so you ain't done shit. But now that I'm telling you it, now you may do something about it. See, that's what we're here for. Let's move on to point number 3. The topic here today is going into Counterintuitive Beliefs, Volume 3. Preaching to the choir is a good idea. I did a whole episode on this in episode 1507. The topic is Preach to the choir, dummy. Preaching to the choir is a good idea. You know, sometimes people say when a person is talking about a certain subject and the people who they are talking to already agree with everything that the person is saying, somebody will say, well, you're preaching to the choir, or you're giving more information to people who already have the information. You're talking about this subject, people who already know the subject. Why are you preaching to the choir? Go talk to somebody who doesn't know it already. Preaching to the choir is a good idea, people. Let me tell you why preaching to the choir is a good idea. Because the choir are the people who agree with you already. They are already on the same page with you, and they're willing to take the next step with you, whatever that next step may be. So if you are a salesperson, if you're an online marketer, if you're a person with something to offer the world and you need people to cooperate with you, the first place you should go, you should start by preaching to your choir. All right, don't start by talking to the people who are not in your audience. In online and digital marketing, or any kind of marketing actually, we call this the hot audience. There are 3 temperatures of audience members: hot, warm, and cold. Your hot audience are the people who already know you. They already know what you're offering. They already know exactly what you're talking about. They probably got a pretty good idea of what you're going to say. And they show up anyway. Why? Because they're the choir and they want to hear you preach. Anybody here goes to church every Sunday? Why? All right, you know what they're going to talk about. You know the book they're going to be reading from. You probably even heard the sermon before. You probably heard all the stories before. You heard all the songs. You know everybody who's going to be there. Why do you keep going? Because it's what you like. They're giving you things that you already agree with. That's why you keep showing up. Preaching to the choir is a good idea, ladies and gentlemen. And the preacher knows who's going to be there. And he knows all the songs are going to be sung. He's told the story before. He's been reading from the same book for 50 years. And he keeps doing it. Why? Because he knows the audience wants it. That is your hot audience. Your hot audience are people who are person aware. That means you. They are product aware, meaning whatever you talk about or whatever you're selling, and they want more of it because they already heard it and know exactly what it is. How many people listening to this right now, you have a pretty good idea of the angles that I'm going to come from on these shows. And you might not know exactly what I'm going to say. You don't know what I'm going to say, but you know this is a guy who is not going to talk about things in the usual way. He's going to question some things that most people have accepted. He's going to accept some things and give reasons why that people question. He's going to give you some ideas that are a little bit different, off the beaten path from what most people would say, and he's going to explain it. You pretty much know that already. And you tune in anyway. Why? Because you're the choir and I'm the preacher. Preaching to the choir is a good idea. These are your ready buyers. Your warm audience, these are the people in the middle. This is the middle temperature people. They are aware of the situation and maybe a little bit aware of you, but they're not quite so sure, what the solution is or where do they find it or who should they go to. So these are the people who understand that they need a little bit more discipline in their lives and they are having some challenges with confidence and their mindset could be a little bit stronger, but they're not all in on, I need to go listen to a podcast on it 30 minutes every single day. They haven't bought into that idea just yet. Even though they know they need a little bit more self-motivation and self-drive, even though I'm telling them, hey, you can get this book called The Mirror of Motivation for free. All you gotta do is cover the shipping. Just go to mirrorofmotivation.com. They looked at the page, they thought about it, they didn't do it yet. All right, that's the warm audience. They looked at it, they know they need it. They said, this is a good offer, but I don't know. I don't know if I would even sit down and read the book. Why? So they kind of left. They might come back. They bookmarked it, they saved it, they emailed it to themselves, but they didn't do it yet. This is the warm audience. They're aware of you and they're aware of the need for the thing that you offer, but they haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. They're not all in. They're kind of like, these are the people who go to the pool and they sit on the edge of the pool and dip their feet in, but they never actually get all the way in the water. All right, that's your warm audience. The cold audience, these are the people who have no idea who the hell you are. They may not even feel like they have a need for what you're offering, and they definitely don't know anything about the things that you offer to do it. So these are the people who, this is just going to be hit or miss. That's the cold audience. So if you ever see, when you're outside in public and you see a person who's begging on the streets, panhandling, asking every person who walks by for money, that's a cold audience. All right, and this is why they get ignored by 99% of the people who they come across. The people who give them money, they hit on something, but they are selling to a cold audience. And what a lot of people do in online marketing, when people run ads, These days we have targeting, so it's a lot better. You get a lot better results, hopefully, over time, and the ad platforms will charge you for those better results. But if you're marketing to a cold audience, you never know who's going to buy. You never know who's going to sell. And you're going to spend a lot of money marketing to a cold audience, but it can make money if you're willing to spend enough and your offer is good enough. So commercials on TV. When you drive on a highway and you see a big billboard, that's cold audience marketing. You have no idea who's in those cars. They're not qualified in any certain type of way. It's just people riding by and they're seeing that billboard. You paid for that billboard. That's cold market audience. But anyway, the reason I'm saying all of that is because preaching to the choir is your warm audience. That's your warm and hot audience. These are your ready buyers. These are the people who want to hear you tell the same story over and over again. So for example, I was in a Clubhouse room today, the day that I'm recording this, and one of my business colleagues, Donna St. Louis, I mentioned her in my book, Work on Your Game. She was running a room on Clubhouse, and I hopped into the room. She introduced me to the room, invited me up to speak, and I go and talk. And she says, Dre, you got to tell that story about that principle that you call the third day. You got to tell that. Now, I told Donna about the third day back in 2014. I mentioned it in the Mirror of Motivation. I mentioned it again in Work on Your Game. I mentioned it when I give speeches, and she wanted to hear it again. And she heard it again years ago, and she loved it. And she always likes hearing me tell the story. She heard it before. All right, she is the warm audience. She is the choir that I'm preaching to when I talk about that principle. That's the reason I'm bringing her up. They want to hear your warm audience, your choir. They want to hear you tell the same stories over and over again. They want to hear the same jokes. All right, they want to hear you go over that same point that you went over before that people love. They want to hear you keep repeating the same principles. People tune into you when you're the preacher that's preaching to the choir. They already know what you have to say. They want to hear it again. That's the whole point. So any of you who is in the expertise space and you start to feel like, man, I don't want to tell the same story that I told before. I don't want to get the same information that I gave already. Listen, that's what they want. That's what they want. I remember I was on somebody's podcast a couple years back, and I'm just telling my story and my background, and guys asking me questions, and I'm giving my feedback, whatever. And a guy reached out to me, or he had his assistant reach out to me and say, hey, would you come and give a keynote at our company's event? And the guy told me, hey, I heard you on such and such a podcast. And I said, cool. I was like, what do you want me to talk about when I come and give a speech to your audience? And he said, well, I want you to just say the same thing you said on that show. He already heard it. He knew exactly what I had to say. He could have just downloaded the video off YouTube and showed it to his people. He said, no, I'm going to bring you in and pay you to come say the exact same thing that I already heard you say. Why? Preaching to the choir. They want to hear the same thing again. So human beings, all of us, we're like dogs in that sense. All right, we want the same things over and over and over again. We know what the dog food tastes like. I want it again. All right, I know what the treat is. I want it. I know the bone that I know where you're gonna throw it and how far you can throw. I want you to throw the bone. I know we're gonna take a walk. I know exactly where we're gonna go, how long it's gonna last. I want to do it again. Human beings are like this, right? Pavlov's dogs. The bell rings, we start salivating. All right, preach to the choir, people. You do not have to reinvent the wheel every single time out. Just keep giving people what they already signed up for. They will keep paying for it with their attention, with their money, with their energy. Do not reinvent the wheel. Point number 4. Topic here today, I'm giving you my Counterintuitive Beliefs, Volume 4. Sales is more important than skills. Now, this is a guy who has a show and a whole brand. My entire business is built on a philosophy called work on your game, which would seem to be referring to skill and ability to do something, game, right? And it is. You're absolutely right. That is what it's referring to. And I'm the guy who's going to sit here and tell you that sales is more important than skill. Now, let's be clear. When I say game, work on your game, selling is part of your game. All right, having skill is part of your game. Making sure people know who you are, all of that is part of your game. But if you cannot sell what you do, then it doesn't matter how much skill you have because nobody will know about it. Nobody will be able to benefit from it. You will not be able to benefit from it. You can't show it to the world. Why did you develop skill if you don't want anybody to benefit from the skill, including yourself? So selling is what allows you to get your skill out into the world. Now, you have to have skill before you start selling because what are you going to sell? You ain't got nothing to offer anybody. But until you sell, your skill does not matter. So when I say work on your game, you need to be investing time in developing skill and developing something that is worthwhile, that is valuable, that you can exchange for other people for value. Usually that'll be money. First attention, then money. But if you don't sell, if you don't have the ability to sell, then you'll never be able to get your skill out into the world and get the value back in exchange for all the time that you put in. All the investment that you put into developing game, time, money, attention, energy, focus, you won't be able to get any money back from it or energy or attention back from it simply because you don't have the ability to sell it. All right, you are a marketer. I talked about this in episode number 1515. You are a marketer, and I did a 3-part series on why you can't sell to save your life. That was episode number 701 was the first one I did. And then I did episode 1687, 88, and 89. 1687, 88, and 89. Why you can't sell to save your life. Sales and marketing people. No matter how good you are at what you do not expect the world to beat a path to your door simply because you built a better mousetrap. You got to let the mice know about it. All right, having a mousetrap is a good thing. Having mice come to the mousetrap is a better thing. All right, so sales gets you in the room. Sales gets you on a stage. Sales gets you paid. Sales gets you recognized. Skill only matters when it is accompanied by the ability to sell. Because if you can't sell, no one will ever be aware of your skill. Now, you don't have to do all the selling yourself. You can hire somebody who can do the selling. You could be a terrible salesperson, but if you got a good salesperson on your team, let them do the selling. All you got to do is deliver the skill. So if you're not a good marketer or a good salesperson, you can either A, become one, or B, go find somebody who is. But either way, somebody got to be doing it for you. If nobody's doing it, then all your skills are going to be unknown. You'll be a secret person with a whole lot of game. It's required either way, though. You must develop the ability to sell. It is the determining factor whether anybody ever knows if you have skill or not. Let's recap today's class, which is Counterintuitive Beliefs, Volume 4. We're going to do Volume 5 tomorrow. Number 1, if a person cannot argue both sides of an opinion, don't listen to them. And the stronger they are on one side of it, if they can't argue the other side, they are even more dangerous simply because they cannot see another side of a conversation. Number 2, the biggest liar in your life is you. We rationalize and lie to ourselves every day just to make it through. The more you can keep it real and honest with yourself, the more free you will be about your own bullshit. Number 3, preaching to the choir is a good idea. The choir are your ready buyers. They're your hot audience. They know exactly what you're about, exactly what you're going to do. They know all the stories you're going to tell. They know all the principles you're going to talk about. And they keep coming back because they want to hear you say them over and over and over again. They already know what you're going to say. They want to hear it again. People are like Pavlov's dogs. You ring the bell, their mouth starts salivating. Do not reinvent the wheel. Just keep giving them what they want. Number 4, sales is more important than skills. Sales get you in the room. They get you on stage. They get you recognized. They get you paid. Skill matters only when accompanied by sales, whether it's done by you or done by somebody else. But sales are required one way or another. If you do not sell, it doesn't matter if you have skill. I was just in a clubhouse room today, a different clubhouse room, and people were talking about writing books and authoring. And there was a woman there who had done a bunch of book deals. There's another guy in there who helps people self-publish books. I was in there, a few other people in there who have written books. And one of the main themes we were talking about there is the ability, when you do a book with a traditional publisher, and my book, Work on Your Game, is done through a traditional Manhattan publisher, they don't really care about how good your writing is, believe it or not. Writing a book has nothing to do with your ability to actually write a book. Or writing a book with a traditional publisher, rather, has nothing to do with your ability to write a book. It is all about your ability to sell a book. Because if they don't think they can sell the book, or you can sell the book, because they're not going to do shit to sell your book. If they don't think you can sell the book, they will not put any resources into getting that book out there. So just in case you didn't know that, now you know. And I did a masterclass on that, about when I talked about getting book publishing deals. That was episode number 1417, how to write and publish a book. So that's that. Tomorrow we'll do volume 5. Work on your game. Dre all day.